Hey everyone, you got Marcel here, back again. This video is going to be regarding man's greatest hour. Now, you could take that in a couple of different ways, from the macro perspective of what a person or a man does in the greatest hour of his life, perhaps in regards to society and man's greatest accomplishments as a whole, or in just the micro, which is the greatest hour of the day, how men are most productive with their days, and how those hours that they're gifted are to be used. I'll break all of this down and exactly what I mean here in a moment. For those of you who have been following my channel, you may have noticed I've been gone for a while. Normally I save channel updates and things for the end of my videos, but in this context they kind of apply to what I'm discussing today. Have you ever sat back and contemplated different scenarios in your mind, whereas if you were offered great sums of money, what you would do with it, or what kind of jobs you would want? I'm sure everybody has, right? One of the little mental questions I would ask myself is, if I were offered a significantly higher income than what I'm currently earning, than what I'm currently getting, in exchange for that whatever I accomplished during that time wouldn't really matter in the greater scheme of society, would I accept it? Forgiving the religious context here, it's almost like a deal with the devil. Would I accept a greater income for essentially giving up any potential importance or role that I would play in society? An example would be, would you rather earn, let's say, $1,000 a month, barely surviving, doing something that you truly love or that will really make a difference, versus earning $5,000 to $7,000 a month doing something incredibly easy but that no one will ever remember? It is, in the great scheme of society, a complete and total waste of your time. With the exception of the numbers being a little different, that is exactly what I was offered, and part of the reason why I took some time off of my channel. I need to decide the direction that I want to go. So what is this job that I've been offered? I can't tell you exactly what it is because it's locational. The work is incredibly easy. In about 2 to 3 hours, I can earn more than what I would in an 8 to 10 hour shift. I have no physical bosses. I get to choose my own work hours, and the pay could easily reach $60 an hour if I really wanted to push it. The catch: having to do these mundane tasks completely destroys my productivity for the rest of the day. Furthermore, there is no guarantee of sustainability. So I could be doing this today, and then tomorrow it could be swept out from under me like a rug with no consequences to the person who took it away. It's literally just a competition, if you will. For now, at this moment, though, I am winning at it. Though granted, any job could fire you at any moment. No matter where you work, nothing is guaranteed. That's why they always say be prepared, have a savings of some kind. But by doing this particular job, I'm seeing all of my finances start to recover. Everything in my household is healing. So for the time being, at least, it is a good thing. A consequence of having done this, though, is that my school is falling behind. I fell behind in my channel. Other aspects of my life are suffering, but my bank account is swelling up, at least in comparison to what I was doing before. This whole situation has really got me thinking about how I want to spend my time. You see, everyone has a certain number of hours in the day when they are the most productive, when they will accomplish the greatest things. It got me contemplating on whether or not I invest those hours properly. We're all aware that time is a resource and it's irreplaceable. We all have different priorities. Some of us may want to spend those greatest hours with friends, enjoying relaxation or hobbies, things that bring us our own personal joy. Some of us will have those hours of the day ripped away by a retail job or some kind of repetitive 9-to-5 type career. Companies aren't stupid. They will siphon off those great hours, those most productive hours, knowing that not only will they get the most out of a worker during those times, but they will also receive the most attention from those who are spending that time out with friends perhaps, shopping, spending money, working on projects and getting things done. I've always known that I personally have an issue with time management. How I organize my day is very lacking compared to average. So having a job opportunity dumped on me that specifically disrupts my ability to organize anything has had a huge negative impact on me, as is clearly reflected by my absence, right? So I would encourage anyone to take a moment and look at the great scheme of how they use their day, how they place their hours when they're most productive, which is different for everyone. Some people are morning people. They do best when they first wake up. I would probably fall more in that category. Then there are those who do the best at night or at noon. It all depends. Everyone's different. For me, at least in this current situation, I have been greatly inconvenienced by this little bit of success. And it's not even that it's greater than the average success. It's just greater than I'm accustomed to. Imagine getting a text in the middle of class when you're trying to take notes and hearing that there's a $100 bill sitting a block and a half down the road. You'll miss class if you go to get it, but then you'll be $100 richer. I can still choose not to go get it and then be successful in class, but at the cost of that source of income for the day. A good method that anyone should do when planning out their day or allocating their time would be to break down almost everything they do into an hourly wage. And this is strictly referring to finances. Looking back when I was younger, I used to drive an hour one way to get to a job that paid, at the time it was better than minimum wage. You know, most people were getting paid like $7.50 and I was earning $11. But it was essentially a grueling retail job that disrespected me at almost every opportunity and took advantage of my skills. I was doing the work of almost a tradesman, if that's the right term for it, I don't know, that I should have been paid $30 or $40 an hour for my experience, and I was doing it for $11. I suppose a silver lining is now there is absolutely nothing that can break in my house I am incapable of fixing without hiring a plumber or an electrician. I can fix anything. So I did get a little back for my time, but that was 7-8 years of my life, siphoned away, the best hours of those days. Was it worth it considering those skills could have been learned in a college or two in as little as 2 or 3 years, but I would have had to pay for them? That's a tough call. It would have been nice to have actually received certifications considering I'd worked so hard for those. And the potential earnings that I would have gotten after having gone to a trade school or something along that lines would have easily paid back the meager wages that I got for doing the jobs in the first place. And now I'm left with nothing but knowledge. Perhaps that's something. My current day job equates to almost the same scenario. I'm learning job skills through them and making connections that I would not be making otherwise, in exchange for wasting some of the better hours of my day. Looking back through my history, through my life, probably the biggest time waster, the biggest siphon of all of my best hours would have been women. Though I'm sure most of you already saw that one coming, you were probably already thinking it. An interesting effect of doing this new job, the weird-houred one that pays better, is that I have suddenly created more of a tangible aspect of what my money's actually worth. It's kind of hard to explain. When I was working a 9-to-5 retail-like job, receiving school benefits or anything along that lines, from loans, for example, any kind of income that's monthly or bi-weekly, you know what I'm talking about. It gets easy to start thinking of that money less as it translates directly into work and more as just sort of a revolving door of paychecks that just get siphoned off into bills and friends or whatever else I'm doing. But now that I have a tangible way to look at my money and say, wait, this directly translates to that job. This $10, this $100, this $1,000 directly translates into X number of hours of work. Suddenly, I'm much more hesitant to blow it, especially since now I get paid on the spot. I wouldn't go out on a frivolous date, for example, with a woman and pay $50 for it if in my mind I recognized at that exact moment I had to work 5 hours to earn that. Imagine sitting in a store or in a shop or at a cashier's desk for 5 hours straight and then exchanging that effort for 30 minutes with someone who will ultimately walk away and not give you any further attention. Or worse, doing that 3 or 4 times in exchange for a half hour or even an hour in the bedroom with them. It doesn't seem worth it when you directly translate it over, but when you're used to those checks coming in every month or week, it doesn't feel like you're spending that much effort on it, does it? Every time I work a new job, I get a new perspective and I learn new skills, which if anyone is going to drop themselves to the level of working a minimum wage job, I certainly hope that they will be receiving something in exchange for it. I mean, everybody's got their limitations of what they're capable of, but anyone should be able to improve over time. And it's important to allocate that effort in ways that will pay back the most in the long run. Finally, looking at the macro or the greater picture of man's greatest hour and how it's being used. So in this modern era of technology, when men are more capable than they've ever been, standing on the shoulders of giants, reaching to the stars, and developing technologies that put thousands of years of effort and careful planning and science to work in ways that have changed the world. And how is our time being invested? How is all of those great accomplishments getting used? Well, men are getting jerked around, falsely accused, dragged through the mud, humiliated, ridiculed, disrespected. Back when I worked in a higher level of management, I heard a bit of honesty from some of even higher managers that I worked under. When it comes to retail or some of these other similar type jobs, you want to pay your employees just enough to keep them alive. Not so much so that they feel competent and successful on their own, because then they ultimately leave the company. And not too little that they start to resent the company for underpaying them, but just barely enough, maybe a tiny bit more, to sustain them. Because in the end, they want the employees to be completely dependent upon their jobs. So if they're earning too much, they'll increase the workload or the hours to where that person cannot be successful with any other parts of their day. This is why at times you may find yourself bringing your work home with you, despite that not specifically being in the job description. Metaphorically, little carrots or rewards can be offered to employees to kind of encourage them to waste more of their time towards their career than would actually be worth it. Not to put on a tinfoil hat, but it's almost an effort to consume the person with that career and not let them focus on much of anything else. I believe that it's all intentional. Taking that model and applying it to things like relationships, families, a lot of the other quote-unquote roles that men are supposed to play in their lives. Have you ever noticed that things that suck men in and almost consume everything that they're doing, doesn't leave much time for personal improvement or growth, and ultimately just gives them enough to keep them alive, to sustain them? How many relationships have men been in where they were given just enough love and attention to keep them there, but not actually to leave them fulfilled? I've spoken about that before, the concept of always keeping them wanting. We've heard that several times, but it gets directly applied. These kind of jobs and relationships and friendships that behave that way, or even goals and hobbies that behave that way, as long as there's someone else controlling them, someone else tailoring them to a certain end, if they're not managed by the man, the individual himself, eventually they fall into that system of barely surviving. It's a trap, gentlemen. It truly is a trap. And it took me having something injected into my life to really shake things up in a twisted way. Yeah, it caused me to fail in some aspects, or to fall behind might be a better way to describe it. But I learned something from it, and that is that I'm getting used. In fact, the only aspect, college, I'm getting used. My work outside of college, I'm getting used. The relationships I've had in the past, I was getting used. The only thing that I'm doing, which I don't believe I'm directly getting used by, with the exception of Google and the way they handle ads, is my channel. This is the only place where I feel that my time directly translates in a way that I'm getting respected. And that really says something, that the things that matter to me the most are the places where I'm shown the respect that I deserve. And that's right here interacting with all of you. Anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts on all that. I hope it was interesting. I encourage you to share down below what you think. Are you currently in a situation that makes you happy, that fulfills your existence, or are you in a situation that may be taking advantage of your ambition? And how could you change that? Perhaps have you ever fallen victim to thinking of paychecks as more of a revolving income and not translating them directly to the money or time value that they have? This is all important stuff to consider. But let me know down below if you enjoyed this video. Like, share, and subscribe. It's great to be back again. This is Marcel.